Dabo Swinney called it a landmark win, and Dabo Swinney was dead on. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love each and every day, 24/7, 365. And this is an interesting look back 7 seasons ago to the 2012 Chick-Fil-A Bowl played in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome on December 31st, on New Year's Eve, with Clemson besting LSU 25-24. Both teams came into the game at 10-2 in the traditional Peach Bowl setting. The Tigers of Clemson were ranked 14th in the country, a 4-point underdog to LSU, ranked 9th in the country entering the game. And, of course, LSU was only 1 year removed from an SEC championship in 2011 and appearance in the BCS championship game. This was a fun one to watch, and Clemson's win marked the first Clemson team to finish a season with 11 wins. So this is in 2012, going back 21, check that, 31 years back to 1981's national championship team. Clemson outgained LSU in this game 445 to 219, yet they trailed 24-13 in the second half, and later in the game 24-18 in this one. 24-22. LSU led this one 24-22. Last drive of the game for Clemson. This was a fun game to watch. I remember it well. And I'm highlighting this game for a couple different reasons. Of course, LSU and Clemson are playing in the national championship game on Monday. Therefore, we're looking back to the last time these two teams, two of the prominent programs in college football, met. It was 7 years ago. Also, to look back, it's interesting to see the number of players that moved on from this game to impact careers in the NFL. But most notably for Clemson, what this did for the program and what it marked and what it indicated and what it foreshadowed. This was a team that the year before, in 2011, won the ACC, but went to the Orange Bowl and was completely humiliated by Geno Smith in West Virginia, 70-33. And if you watch that game, you realize that the 70 points were with the Mountaineers taking their foot off the throttle for the final quarter plus. They could have scored 80, 85, or 90 points in that game. It was that bad. Clemson had athletes all over the field, especially on offense. They had a prolific offense. They had poor defense, but they had speed on defense. They had good athletes on defense, but they had a poor scheme. They weren't invested in tackling. They blew coverages and other assignments on a regular basis. But in stepped Brent Venables from Oklahoma, and things changed. And this is one of the landmark wins that signifies and can be looked back upon as a significant win in the rise of Clemson football. And Dabo Swinney said it after the game. He said, this is a landmark win. And how right he was. So let's go back to 24-22. LSU leading. Clemson with the ball for the last time. They faced a 4th and 16 after 2 Taj Boyd incomplete passes plus a Sam Montgomery sack of Boyd. 4th and 16, and they complete the play to DeAndre Hopkins. He's turned out to be a pretty good player. For the first down that led to the game-winning field goal by Chandler Cantizaro, who hit on all but one field goal that year for Clemson, and they win it over the Tigers of LSU 25-24. Taj Boyd was the MVP in this game. He hit on 36 of 50 for 346 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks. DeAndre Hopkins was the man. 13 catches for a $191 and both Boyd touchdown passes. Of course, DeAndre Hopkins has now caught 54 touchdowns and 632 passes in the NFL with the Houston Texans, who are still in the NFL playoffs, alive. Brandon Ford had a nice game for Clemson, 9 catches, 69 yards. Andre Ellington, 11 carries, 50 yards out of the backfield, and also 1 catch for 35 yards. And, of course, Andre Ellington has moved on to the NFL to have a decent career for 5 seasons with the Arizona Cardinals, gaining over 1,700 yards and scoring 10 touchdowns. probably the two offensive players that have had the most impact after Hopkins at the next level would, of course, be Sammy Watkins, who did not play in this game because he was injured. Watkins caught 57 passes in 2012 and 3 touchdowns. He was drafted by Buffalo, has played with the Rams, and now with the Kansas City Chiefs with 284 catches in the NFL and 31 touchdowns. Adam Humphries, the predecessor to Hunter Renfrow as the slot receiver, the guy that in the Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman mode would burn defenses time and time again and gain first downs. 8 catches, 27 yards in this game for Adam Humphries. He had a huge year for the Tennessee Titans just in 2018 with 76 catches, and he's caught 256 passes in the NFL and 11 touchdowns. On the LSU side offensively, Zach Mettenberger started this game. He completed 14 of 23 for $120 with a touchdown and a pick, and moved on to the NFL where he played 2 seasons and had a handful, that would be 2 seasons, with a handful of starts for the Tennessee Titans, in which he threw 12 touchdowns in 2014 and 15. Jeremy Hill was a man for LSU, a string of tremendous running backs for LSU, and Jeremy Hill was one of them, along with Darius Geis and Leonard Fournette, of course. Hill ran for 124 yards in this Chick-Fil-A bowl game on only 12 carries and 2 touchdowns. In 2014, he gained over 1,000 yards for the Cincinnati Bengals and led the NFL in rushing touchdowns in 2015. Spencer Ware, another running back for LSU, of course, moved on to the Kansas City Chiefs and gained almost 1,000 yards in 2016. Kenny Hilliard, another top back for LSU. And the 2 starting wide receivers for LSU, this is just about as good as it gets. Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. Although they were pretty ineffective in this game, Odell went 3 catches for 40 yards and Landry 4 catches, 37 yards, and he did score a touchdown. Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, of course, 2 of the better wide receivers in the NFL. 464 catches for OBJ, 48 touchdowns. Landry led the NFL in receptions in 2017 with 112 of his career 564 catches. Let's not leave out the defenses and the players that we saw back in 2012 in Atlanta. On the Clemson side, their better players on defense include Jonathan Willard, who had 85 tackles that season, Rashard Hall, 4 interceptions, Stephon Anthony, who 1 season later would wrap up an Orange Bowl win over Ohio State with a late-game interception of Braxton Miller to win that game 40-35. Started for the New Orleans Saints in 2015. Grady Jarrett, probably the most accomplished of the Clemson defenders off that team, had 8.5 tackles for loss this past season. Actually, he did for that Clemson team in 2012, and still a very productive defensive lineman for the Atlanta Falcons with 7.5 sacks this past season. And Bashaud Breeland for the Washington Redskins with 12 career interceptions. The LSU defense was stacked. So I'm not even going to get to all the players who have made a mark in the NFL. You had Kevin Minter, who had 15 tackles for loss that season in 2012 for LSU, has played for the Cardinals, the Bengals, and the Buccaneers for the past 6 seasons. Layman Barrow, 104 tackles for LSU in 2012. Eric Reed, maybe the best player on this LSU defense in the NFL, has starred for San Francisco and Carolina with 518 NFL tackles. Jalen Mills for Philadelphia still playing. Craig Loston, the safety for LSU, who moved on to Jacksonville in 2014 and 15. Barkevious Mingo was the 6th pick in the NFL draft in 2014 for the Cleveland Browns and has since moved on. And then you've got Sam Montgomery, the aforementioned player who sacked Taj Boyd to almost wrap up the Peach Bowl win, Chick-Fil-A Bowl win for LSU, but Montgomery had a big season for the Tigers that year, 13 tackles for loss and 8 sacks. Just to look back at Clemson before they were Clemson, when they were on the verge of being what we currently see Clemson football as, and their 20-12 Chick-fil-A Bowl win over LSU, 25-24. Give me your memories. Do you remember this game? I remember watching this one on a New Year's Eve. Your thoughts about LSU going back to 2012 and also Clemson as this one a precursor to what we're going to see in a much more important game for the national championship on Monday night. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.